I park and shut off the engine, jumping out and jogging toward the faint trail through the sagebrush. I know exactly where to go. Instead of turning right like we did yesterday to get to the boulder, I take a left. I haven't been on this part of the beach in over a decade, not since it happened. I know this is the right direction, though, and soon enough, I see the bend on the beach that turns into the shallows that we've played in so many times. I also see an odd set of tracks leading in that direction. Flynn's footprints, not hard to recognize with their long clawed toes, but there's another pattern next to them. They aren't footprints, but drag marks, like Flynn had been dragging something next to him. I pick up the pace and start to run, breath catching in my throat, that feeling of not being able to turn back looming over me like a dark fog. The water and sand around me is starting to tinge a soft red with the setting sun. For a moment, I wonder what would happen if I stop. What if I turn back instead of turning this corner? I know that my life will turn out very, very differently if I do. That thing in the mirror, the town, it told me so. But I feel like I'm on a set of train tracks cutting through the desert with no alternative path to speak of. And I've been on this track ever since I decided that I need to protect TJ. As I turn the corner, I see them immediately. TJ is sitting on the beach, his knees drawn up to his chest as he stares downward. Flynn is standing over TJ, his paws on his hips, looking down at the cat. It looks like he'd been thrown there by the lizard, and I finally feel rage replace the anticipation and fear. It's finally going to happen, and now I want it to. Hey! Flynn immediately whirls around, eyes wide as he spots me sprinting toward him. He takes a step back as I get closer, but I skid to a stop 10 feet away, glaring at him as my paws clenched into fists. What the hell are you doing? I scream at him, wanting to let him know just how pissed I am. It feels good, finally not being afraid or worried about what's going to happen. Because now I know there's no other option. Flynn looks taken aback for a moment, looking me up and down before he straightens up. He hasn't forgotten what happened between us yesterday, and I can tell that he's afraid of me. Get the fuck out of here, Chase. This isn't about you. You fucking bet it is. I look at TJ, and he's gone back to staring at the ground, expression vacant. What are you doing to him? I'm not doing anything to him, except asking him some questions. About? You know exactly what about.
He's trying to confirm your secret.
Get away from him. I say each word with deliberation, taking a few steps closer to the lizard. Flynn steps back again, but only with one foot, and he doesn't back away further. You stay the fuck away from me, Chase. What the hell have you been doing this whole week? Flynn seems to grow a little more confident with that. What do you mean? I stop and cross my arms, waiting. What I asked yesterday, and after what happened with Carl, I think I'm owed a fucking explanation. I feel the anger rise up even more in my chest. You want an explanation after the shit you've been pulling? Flynn once again looks taken aback by my anger. The hell you talking about? My paw moves to my pocket. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That fucked up scavenger hunt that you sent us on. That you started with Carl. Flynn gapes at me. What? I feel some of my resolution dissolve as the lizard's face looks completely bewildered.
He's lying.
Anger swells once again. Quit fucking lying to me! I know what you did, and I know what you think happened. Flynn steps forward. Chase, get the fuck out of here. This isn't about you. TJ's telling me what happened. I look down at TJ, again at that vacant stare. What did he tell you? Leave. This isn't about you. Flynn walks up to me, giving me a hard shove in the chest. I stumble back. Really? I feel my paw reaching into my pocket, as if on its own accord. I grasp the note, and even though my nerves fail me as I'm pulling it out,
It seems to happen on its own.
Then what the hell is this? I unfold the note, ripping the old paper in the process, but it's intact enough when I present it in front of the lizard's face. Flynn's brow furrows in confusion for a moment before he takes it roughly from my paws. He stares at it, eyes scanning the page, as if looking at it from all angles. Finally, his eyes flick up to look at me. "What the fuck is this?" he whispers hoarsely. I look straight back at him, waiting for the expression of familiarity, the guilt, the knowledge that the piece of paper is his own doing. But instead of what the mirror promised, I get shock and confusion instead. Just like that, I feel my determination break down. It was as if something had been driving me to this moment, and that cloud covering my brain breaks for a moment. For a moment, things are clear, and I'm left in a daze. What is this? His voice turns into a scream, and it's such a horrible sound that I stumble back. He holds the paper up, showing me, and I stare as if I'd never seen it before. Unlike the other notes, this one is a crude drawing. On the far left of the page, a small stick figure with lynx ears is kneeling on a beach, surrounded by clams and starfish. He's covering his face, tears falling to the sand below. Extending out from the beach, poorly drawn waves spread across the top of the page to represent the lake. Far below the waves, two figures are connected near the bottom of the page. One has X's for eyes, his legs and arms splayed out, tiny little bubbles coming up from his mouth. Below that figure, another sits below him, grinning mischievously, holding the drowning stick figure down by his tail. As if the picture wasn't descriptive enough, words and arrows label the characters. Toby sitting on the beach, Sydney dead in the water, and Chase holding him down. I'd looked at the drawing so many times before, but now to have Flynn be the one to show it to me. But he had to have been the one to draw this. Who else could have done it? But here he was, standing there in a state of shock just like me. But I could see his expression very quickly morphing to fury. All my plans to confront him, to figure out how he'd found out, are thrown out the window. Because he'd just found out. I'm completely unprepared, and conveniently, the presence that spurred me on has left as well. And it's only now that I realize how stupid this all was. It's like I've been tricked. Chase. Flynn's walking toward me, and his expression is like nothing I've seen before. Chase. I can see in his eyes what he's about to do. I back away, stumbling, and that's when he rushes, tackling me to the ground and crushing me into the hard, sharp rocks underneath. Unlike yesterday, all of my strength and confidence has abandoned me. It's like whatever has been driving me has left me right at this moment, taken several steps back to watch. Like it wanted this to happen all along. Flynn's fists find my face, first one on the right side and then another on the left. Each one brings a flash of light to my vision, and at that moment, all sense leaves me. It's kind of nice in a way, like I don't have to be present for the horror that I brought on myself. A few more punches come my way, the impacts like earthquakes in my head, but I don't feel any pain. Instead, they leave me feeling stunned, like I'd been electrocuted. I can feel blood pouring from my nose like a faucet though, and soon it fills my mouth with that familiar metallic taste. You fucking piece of shit! You think you can just play with me like this? His strong big hands find my neck and start to squeeze. Through blurred vision, I can see him above me, eyes filled with tears, glaring down at me with the rage that I didn't think was possible. You little shit! You won't fucking get away with this shit this time! I hear the rustling leaves again. My reflection, Sydney, the town, whatever it is, laughing at me. Vaguely, I wonder if Flynn had been spurred on by it too.
Web.
Nothing seems real right now. What's happening to me? To Flynn? What's happening between us? It seems impossible. But the breath that's stuck in my throat is very real, and I start to see stars and blackness begin to cloud my vision. After the things I've done, I guess I deserve it. I guess this is the appropriate way to go out. Flynn! A soft voice coming from the distance. It was me. I did it. Hands come away from my throat, and I take in one massive breath, like I'm coming up from the water after being under for far too long. Spit and blood go down my throat and into my lungs, and I roll over, letting out a great cough, spraying the rocks in front of my face with dark drops of blood. What? I watch blood drip to the flat rock in a steady rhythm from my nose, having to breathe extra hard through my mouth because of it. I said I did it. It was an accident. I pushed him out into the water, and he drowned. I grabbed the rock, stumbling to my feet, feeling that old anger return.
He's going to kill Toby. Stop him.
I stumble unsteadily to my feet and turn to see the lizard with his back to me, approaching TJ.
He would never leave Toby alone, just like Sydney.
I stumble after them, hand tightening around the rock, the back of Flynn's head in my sights. What did you say?
But you can stop it for good. Break the circle.
I'm a few steps away from Flynn when I swing, bringing it down on his head as hard as I can. The sound is awful. Immediately, Flynn bends over, screaming in pain as his paws come up to clutch the back of his head. I swing again, this time glancing off the top of his head, most of my power robbed by the poor angle. Flynn turns to me then, still crouched low, and tries to tackle me. I stay on my feet for the most part, but I'm pushed back several feet as I grab onto his back for support. I feel the cold water on my feet. And that's when I grab the lizard under his armpits and start to pull us both out further. Flynn doesn't seem to realize what's happening until the water's up to our knees. He stands up straight, and I see the blood running down his face from his head. He's glaring at me, expression wild, gaze clouded just like mine, and he takes a swing at me. It lands on my jaw. Though my head is snapped to the side and another flash fills my vision, I'm able to grab that paw and swing him out further into the lake. The lizard stumbles in the shallows, standing up, waist deep, and that's when I throw myself at him with everything I've got. I tackle him into the water, and we're both submerged. I feel the change in Flynn's demeanor. The change as he realizes that he's gone from fighting for the truth to a fight for his life. Claws come out and scratch at my arms, but I ignore it, the cold of the water numbing any pain that I might have felt. I kick us further into the lake, my powerful tail and body coming to play, doing what I was built to do. I know I knocked the breath out of Flynn when I barreled into him, so he doesn't have much time before he needs another breath. I'm not gonna give it to him. I thrust us both through the water, downward against the rocks and sand below us. He grasps at me, kicking with his feet, and I catch a glimpse of his face then. It's not angry anymore, or clouded. Instead, he stares at me with shock and utter disbelief. I'm killing him, and he realizes it. He also realizes the truth then. I see it in his eyes. What he's wanted to know for the past decade, he realizes in the last minutes of his life. He kicks at me with his feet, his movements becoming even more desperate. His paws move to my neck, trying to choke me again, but it's useless. I already have my breath. I watch bubbles spurt from his muzzle, then all at once in a gush. His paws go from strangling to pleading. He grabs me by the shoulders, shaking, tugging, looking into my eyes. But I'm relentless. That feeling of not being able to turn back too strong. His muzzle opens, trying to breathe but only taking in water. His thrashing turns up a notch, scratching my legs with his claws as he kicks even harder. The second burst of desperation only lasts a few seconds, though. His movements growing more and more tired, weaker and weaker. He's not looking at me anymore, eyes staring past me toward the glimmering surface above, a place I'll never let him see again. His movements become more sporadic, like he's having convulsions. My instincts tell me to let him go, to end this insanity, but my paws don't let me. I close my eyes and press harder. After a few more minutes, I don't feel any more movements. Slowly, I let him go, careful not to look at his face. His body stays still for the most part, moving back and forth gently with the current. I kick to the surface, my limbs numb as I break through the cold air above. I pull myself along through the rocks, gasping and feeling incredibly weak for some reason. My stomach lurches, and for a moment, I feel as if I'm going to throw up. I stay there on my hands and knees, staring into the water at my reflection. My face looks blank, and for a moment, I see the horrible gashed mouth. I know I'm crying, even if lake water is covering it up. What happened? But as I look up, and as I see TJ there, everything comes together. He's on his knees, staring past me, mouth hanging open. Suddenly, I remember exactly why it is this all happened, and my chest fills with warmth and love for the cat as I stumble toward him on my knees. TJ doesn't seem to notice me as I wrap my arms around him, pressing his face to my chest. I've got you. We're okay. He's not gonna hurt you anymore. I breathe heavily into the lynx's ear as I whisper to him, wanting to let him know that everything's going to be okay. Finally, I feel him shake his head against my body. Chase. Why? Because he knew. He was never gonna leave us alone. He tried to kill us. I kiss the top of the cat's head gently, wanting him to know how much I care. Is he? He's gone. TJ sobs against me, but I only hug him tighter. Why did you do that? He reaches out to my left, and I look, seeing the paper and the lake. I'm not sure which he's talking about, me showing Flynn the paper or killing him. I don't know, so I don't answer. Instead, I hug him even tighter, whispering in his ear. It'll be just like last time. We won't tell anyone. Our secret. Something turns ominous in the air. That horrible tension I'd felt dissipate when we opened the letters returns. This town needs secrets. We'll tell them he tried to kill us. We had to protect ourselves. TJ leans tiredly against me, his arms limp. We're gonna be okay. Just like last time. We can forget. TJ doesn't respond, so I look out at the lake and get a shock as I see Flynn floating there, close to the shore. He's face down, back just barely touching the surface. For a moment, I wonder if it's not too late, if there's still enough life in him to be revived. But that same feeling holds me back, and I cling to TJ instead. We're gonna be okay.
We were manipulated. We keep moving in circles.
That voice comes to the surface for a moment, for the first time sounding stunned, I return to focusing on the links. The whole reason why I did any of this in the first place. Whatever happens, I'm going to protect him from all the shitty people in the world that want to hurt him. By the time we get to our feet, it's dark, and I have to help the lynx along through the sagebrush. He's quiet, robotic, like he was the first time this happened. I help him into my car, and I get into the driver's seat, quietly pulling out of the parking lot and leaving Flynn's empty truck behind. I watch it disappear in the rearview mirror, sitting alone under the yellow parking lot light. As we drive along the road, the lynx stares out the window, and I can still feel the tension in my arms and legs, making it difficult to keep the wheel steady. My heavy, wet clothes stick to the seat. Finally, we get to the freeway, and I look back again. Echo just a series of tiny lights, insignificant on the desert landscape. It seems absurd that this place was where all that horror happened, where all of that horror still is. Chase? I snap out of my daydream, looking over at the lynx, his eyes glowing gently in the fading light. After we're done with wherever we're going? The police station? Yeah. Can you give me a ride back to CCU? I missed my bus. TJ smiles sheepishly. I blink, wondering what to say. Does he not realize? Then I realize what he's doing. What's happening. Just like last time. I clear my throat. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll give you a ride for sure. Thanks, Chase. TJ smiles at me and then goes back to looking out the window. I wonder if he'll forget what happened, just like what happened with Sydney. I hope that I can. We drive off into the dark desert, toward the soft glow of Peyton in the distance.